things black politics here on Boston Black News. And here it is again on Friday, 11 o'clock every Friday here on Boston Black News. I will be talking about what is going on in politics from Boston to Washington, D.C. And boy, the politics is getting deep now. And actually, in many ways, it is helpful for all Americans, particularly Bostonians, my hometown. There's some things that have gone on in Washington, D.C. that has impacted on Boston's black community. Here's one. The big pay raise. The big dollars have come. By the way, it's not a pay raise, it's a stimulus, and Black Boston is excited about it big time, but is it enough? The question is it enough? As reported by CNN and all sorts of other news networks, this stimulus effort that was created by President Joe Biden has provided a sweeping $1.9 trillion of relief and represents the largest federal effort to reduce poverty in the last half a century. Yes, more than 50 years. This $1.9 trillion relief program is supposed to eliminate poverty. Well, I'm not too sure about that, so let's discuss it. This massive legislation, which the president signed last Thursday, provided aid to low-income Americans in numerous ways. Attention has been focused on a third round of direct stimulus money. That's the stimulus money that we're receiving in our pocket. Well, many Americans are. Well, if you were below a certain amount of money in income every year, you're getting $1,400 more. Most of the folks in America are receiving that stimulus package. $1,400 or $1,600, $1,600 more. And that $1,600 is supposed to eliminate poverty? I don't think so. Let's pay attention to the details. Hold on, wait a minute. This guaranteed stream of income gives childless workers a bigger tax break, and it will extend the enhanced food stamp benefits and federal help for the unemployed, along with providing housing assistance and more generous health insurance subsidies. That's a good thing. The package's key measures are expected to slash the poverty rate by 1/3 and reduce the share of children in poverty by more than half. So they're supposed to eliminate the poverty level by more than half because of food stamps and because of the other items such as healthcare subsidies. But I'm not sure, candidly, if that particular format is going to actually eliminate poverty. And there's a lot of people that are actually questioning this, but one of the groups that is not questioning it is Columbia University and the Urban Institute that is saying that it's going to eliminate poverty by 1/3. The provisions of this program also will cut poverty rate for Black Americans by 38%. That's what the Urban Institute is saying. And candidly, I doubt very much if the poverty rate is going to be cut by 38% by providing health care and food stamps. That hasn't happened in the past in terms of success, and I doubt very much if that's going to be a success rate now. But I'm going to hold my thoughts for a second and ask you all your thoughts to be able to call in at 617-282-7794. Again, 617-282-7794. This is Leon Rock, and this is Boston Black News. Hold on, wait a minute, there's more. They're saying that this will fundamentally change the anti-poverty programs that have been established back in the 1960s. Yeah, there's more. Now, how much will you get in your check? Well, I'm not too sure on this one right here. Some people are going to not receive the check. Some people had a higher income than what was given the last time around. So some people are going to miss out on this particular check. A lot of lawmakers are pushing for more. And actually, hold on, wait a minute. There is a need for more. And I'll give you an example of what people are asking for. Representative Omar has introduced Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. Yeah, Representative Omar has introduced a Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act, a bill to institute a nationwide cancellation of rent and home mortgage payments through the duration of the coronavirus. Now that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, the bill would constitute a full payment for forgiveness with no accumulation of debt for renters or homeowners and no negative impact on the credit rating or rental history. Now, that's the progressive type of legislation that I'm talking about. And actually, our own Ayanna Presley is one of the co-sponsors of the bill. I'm not sure if it'll get through the Senate, but it'll probably fly through in many ways through the House. Cori Bush is another sponsor of the legislation, along with a dozen of other legislators. Now, that's what I'm talking about. Washington actually doing their job and actually providing resources to the Black community, to the brown community, to the poor community. That's what I think is necessary. But there is more that is necessary. Give me a call at 617-282-7794. Again, that's 617-282-7794. All things Black politics. This is Leon Rock, your host on Boston Black News. Well, there's even more to what needs to be done in Boston. I think Boston could take a leap of faith and do something that Philadelphia is doing. Yeah, in Philadelphia, the city that began all of this in terms of being the city of the Constitution, they're trying to actually address the systemic racism and addressing it in a way that is different from every other city. They're proposing a black stimulus. Did you hear me? A black stimulus. Yeah, Donovan West. Yeah, he's the head of the African American Chamber of Commerce in Philadelphia. He's proposing that the city can do more to help the Black community and its businesses during the pandemic, and is saying that there's a need for a Black stimulus program. Essentially, addressing workforce development issues, improving career education programs, closing the digital divide, training young people on innovation and automation, and teaching about finance and entrepreneurship. He's saying that in Philadelphia, there is a need for a Black stimulus program. My question to you all today is there a need for a Black stimulus program in Boston? That's the question of the day, is essentially, is Biden's approach of putting $1.9 trillion into the economy enough? Do we have to do more? Is there a need to address this challenge that we find ourselves in economically with more action? Does the city of Boston need to have more action for the Black community? And is there a need for essentially a Black stimulus program? Now, I know that there's about 6 or 7 people that are running for mayor for the city of Boston. I'm wondering if anyone has ever posed this to those that are running for the office of the mayor. What do you plan to do? How do you plan to stimulate the economy of the Black community of Boston? This is the question. This is my concern. I'm wondering if you're equally as concerned about this issue. You can give us a call at 617-282-7794. That's 617-282-7794. This is Boston Black News, and this is your host, Leon Rock. I wonder out loud what is going to happen in the African American community of Boston moving forward. Is there going to be a Black stimulus program for Boston's Black community? You tell me. Let me know what you think about a Black stimulus program for the Boston's Black community. Well, I'm agreeing with Donovan West. I like his proposal in Philadelphia. His ideas are great, in my humble opinion. He had actually proposed this to the city council. Some of the city in Philadelphia, some of the city council members are thinking along the same lines. West was applauded with a council resolution calling for a Black stimulus package that would spend $500 million on capital investments in poor neighborhoods, as well as millions more in job training, rent subsidies, and other basic income supports. The council is expected to discuss the resolution as they move forward with this proposal. Although there is sticker shock, and I'm sure there would be sticker shock in Boston as well, as they would discuss a proposal of this type, forget the sticker shock, do something. Boston's Black community is hurting, just like Black communities across America. Now the question is, what will Black Boston do? What will Black Boston do? Well, Pastor, what do you think about these proposals? What do you think Black Boston should do? Are the people that are running for mayor able to address this particular issue of a Black stimulus program? And by the way, I'd like to hear your observations and opinions. Contact me at 617-282-7794. Again, the number is 617-282-7794. This is Boston Black News. This is all things Black politics. And I am your host, Leon Rock. We do have a caller coming in, and I'll wait for the caller coming in. The caller coming in is named Chief. What's going on, Chief?
Greetings, Leon.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Forgive me for dropping the video. I just want to make sure that the audio comes through. Can you hear me all right?
That's fine. And I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, thanks for the subject. This is something that I've been concerned with. A lot of people are here. Is the state of the black economy here in Boston, Massachusetts, right? And so I live in Mattapan. I live close to Blue Hill Ave, and I've been here about 20, 25 years, and I've watched the purposeful divestment
Mm.
from the black community and black businesses all along the Blue Hill corridor. It's something that's very clear, very evident, that you could see very simply and plainly. If you live in the neighborhood, if you live in the area, there used to be bars, right, and function halls and all kinds of businesses up and down. Every square that you would stop at Blue Hill Ave would have some type of business like that. And now those businesses are gone.
That's right.
And so when you're asking, should there be kind of a reparative injection of investment specifically to black businesses in Boston, the answer is got to be yes, because there's already been the opposite, a focused and specific targeted divestment of the black economics here. So I would argue yes, that's very much needed, and a lot of people have been claiming and to be working towards this goal. I think it's popular to give lip service if you're a politician or you're a business, a community individual, to give lip service to these type of issues. But then how we go about it and how our action, kind of how we out is a total different thing here.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this: you looking at what has been going on in your community of Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Hyde Park, Roslyn, all those sections of Black Boston. What is going on with the body politic of it all? Has anyone said, let us come together as a group of people, black and brown folks, and say to the politicians, come up with a plan? Tell and actually give them a plan if necessary, but support this plan. What's your thoughts? What's going on?
Well, that is a constant question. What's going on? And I think there's always something going on. Like I said, you'll always see someone speaking to this issue, right? But I think it's much fewer people that are actually fundamentally working on these things. So, but I've seen that there are groups and people that are genuinely interested in this stuff. Know what I mean? And just the top of my head, Shogun at BECMA comes to the top of my head. I think they're really invested in making changes here. But when we also think, and I'm not going to attack any of the people that are now trying to become mayor. Okay, but John Barrows has been in the city of Boston for a while now. You know what I mean? And I had my own experience going to him and the departments in Boston trying to support local black businesses, and I really wasn't feeling like they were all about it. I mean, so I mean, though they've been saying they've been doing it, right? So I'm weary of those that claim that they're going to work on this issue, and I am still looking for the people that are really making things pop.
Right. So I understand your concern about not attacking any of the candidates for office. But if from someone, I'm in Washington, and I'm from Boston, and someone from the outside now looking in at my beloved Boston, I would say if I looked for the past 30 years, and you said 15, 20 years, but if I look at the past 25 or 30 years and the disinvestment that has happened, my question would be to all of those running is, what have you done in the past time that you have been in political office or in position of power to actually make sure that there's a reinvestment of dollars into the African American community or the black and brown community? And so that's a tough question, but isn't that a legitimate question to ask?
It's perfectly legitimate. You're going to get a lot of defense, right? Because,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of them are just going to pass the buck and blame the mayoral administration.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
You know what I mean? And say, "Oh, I didn't have power to do anything. I really wanted to, but I was foiled." Um, I think the city's been hemorrhaging. These
Hmm.
communities have been hemorrhaging,
Right.
and people have just been trying to prevent the gentrification in their own small, tiny neighborhoods. So
Right.
I don't think there's been much unification. I don't think there's been really much overall working together to kind of resolve these issues. I think we have band-aids in a bunch of different silos throughout the city.
Hmm.
And
So
I think
you would be supportive of for the lack of a better word, a black stimulus program, or a black and brown, if you want to include people of color, a black and brown because, by the way, the Latino community, I grew up in Boston, so I know that blacks and Latinos have struggled collectively together.
they've been played
Economic,
against each other. They've been played against each other in this
they
tight
have.
economy.
That's right.
Where it's so hard to get a piece of the pie. Naturally, they've been played against each other.
Right, right. So yeah, I'm all for inclusiveness, and I know that the black and brown community have been struggling for a long time, and we do need. And I'm glad that you're saying, hey, guess what? Put together a black and brown stimulus package that can be supported by the city council. By the way, here's my other question, brother Chief, is what's your gut feeling on the Boston City Council? Now, the Boston City Council is majority women, and interestingly, majority minority. And this has been going on for, I guess, about 2 years or so. That has been majority women and majority minority. Are they effective? And this is not to insult anyone. Let's look at the whole package.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. We have had a lot of people that speak to these issues come and go.
Mm-hmm.
It's popular here to speak to the issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at what's been done over the years with all these people speaking to the issues, not really much has done, right? The level hasn't really moved. The needle hasn't really moved. So what we have is people that have just been speaking to these issues and not being affected. That's what we have.
Right.
And we're very PC up in the north. We don't like to offend each other and stuff. But people haven't been doing their jobs, Mr. Rock. They haven't been doing their jobs. And it's been a purposeful divestment of families and communities here, including their public education system when they bust people out of Metco. So, like I said, I mean, this is kind of how the place operates. They know it. This is my argument. This is what I would say, Mr. Rock. I would say the city of Boston owes the communities that it's purposefully divested from, that it has redlined, that it has made their businesses unsuccessful. Now COVID has really been the last wipeout for all of them. And the city of Boston owes them from Nubian Square all the way down to Mattapan Square. Yes, I would like to see the city of Boston finally doing what it's supposed to be doing. And instead of extracting and exploiting the people along that corridor, they should be investing in them and their businesses. So stop sending people to the seaport. Stop sending people downtown. Start sending the money to Nubian Square, the Blue Hill Corridor, and all the way down to Mattapan Square. That's what I want to see in Boston. And that's what Boston owes. Owes citizens.
Yeah. You got it. That's exactly it. And what about the developers? It seems as though the developers are owning the city council. They owned, in many ways, the mayors, not just one mayor. Pretty much all the mayors in the city of Boston have been owned by developers since the 1950s, when there was the massive displacement of black folks from the South End. And actually, even before then, when there was the massive displacement of black folks from what is considered essentially Capitol Hill in Massachusetts. That's where black folks lived. And it's kind of hard to believe that, around the State House, that was where the black community was at one time. Displaced to the south end, displaced to
We're
Roxbury,
seeing the
now
same.
displaced to Mattapan, then displaced to Brockton, and then displaced all around every
Out of
place else except Boston. Correct?
it's just kind of the way the world. Uh, absolutely, absolutely. There's no other way around it. So you have to ask yourselves, right? How much is lip service, and how much of this is really just the original game plan that folks have been sticking to for a long time here?
Yeah, good.
That's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really buy most of this stuff when people are talking about it because I don't see their actions. Like James Baldwin said, I can't believe you because I see what you do.
That's right. Exactly.
That's
Yes.
kind of here. I mean, I hear all this concern, but I don't really see it.
Yeah.
So it's up to the communities, the businesses to kind of create a culture that's going to support themselves and really grab that power and try to grab some of the last pieces of the economy here that haven't fallen apart.
So, do you see anything different happening based on the upcoming mayoralty election, where you have pretty much 6 or 7 black folks running for the seat of the mayor, and then you're going to have an acting mayor, and she may run for mayor, and then you'll have some other non African Americans, essentially, I should say it, just whites that will run for office of the mayor. Do you see any strategic change that is going to happen where a black person would win?
Now, so this is going to be interesting because I'm actually optimistic here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually really excited for Mayor Kim Janey and her transition team. I don't know if you're familiar with her transition team, but she's put together a respectable group of folks that I really look forward to see what they have planned for the city.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Excellent. So you do see some light at the tunnel with Mayor, soon to be Mayor select Kim Janey, because she has been selected.
She loves the city. I think she wants to do.
Very good. Excellent. Well, again, this is All Things Black Politics. This is your host, Leon Rock. I'm talking with the chief. And out of
From Mattapan. I'm over here in Mattapan.
In Mattapan. And we're talking about a black stimulus, the need for a black stimulus initiative, black stimulus package for Boston, similar to what they have proposed in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania. We've also talked about, he has been trending, terminology has been trending, and it's called Moneybags Joe. Yeah, Moneybags Joe. That's Joe Biden has provided $1.9 trillion in resources to address the challenge of the virus and get money out to the people. Remember, back in the mortgage crisis, they gave trillions of dollars out, but they gave it to who? The people that created the madness from the beginning, and that was the banks. This time, Moneybags Joe, that's what it has been trending. Joe Biden has provided the resources that are going directly to the cities, the states, and particularly the people, through a stimulus of $1,600 from the previous stimulus to $400, so essentially $2,000 in stimulus money in people's pockets as a third stimulus. The question I raise, and I'm going to raise it to you, Brother Chief, is does that $1,600 adding up to essentially $2,000 actually do anything? Does it really have any impact to any large degree on the bottom line in the Black and Latino community in Boston and across the country? What's your thoughts?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. This is what I would say, and I'm gonna have to go here. I love this conversation.
Yes, and thank you.
Um, it's not. I'm sorry. Ask the question again.
Yes, does the $1,600 do
Yeah.
anything of any significance?
Because the answer to the change is cultural.
Mm-hmm.
It's cultural change we need, not $2,000. $2,000 helps me today to do one thing or two things, but the culture, if the culture is going to be the same, then we're going to deal with the same problems. And this is really what the issue is. It's the culture. And so, for example, we had Donald Trump as the president. You saw how the culture changed. We're all kind of boiling in the fire of the culture today. This is what I'm saying. We get the culture from the leaders and from the people that are doing the work. And that's where we need the work to be. And that's where I think the change has to be culturally. Mr. Rock, I got to get going.
All right. Thank you, Brother Chief. I appreciate your call.
Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. This is Leon Rock, and this is All Things Black Politics here on Boston Black News. And actually, you can watch it on, BostonBlackNews.com. Again, BostonBlackNews.com. You can call in at 617-282-7794. Again, 617-282-7794. This is All Things Black Politics, and I am your host, Leon Rock. Yeah, this stimulus, we're just talking about this stimulus program and its impact on the African American community in Boston. Yeah, from Washington, D.C., where I'm located today, all the way to Boston has come billions of dollars, earmarked to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Just like there will be money, I know here in, Maryland as well, there is $3 billion that has been received or will be received, essentially for block grant dollars through the stimulus. And the governor has all sorts of plans for those dollars. Now the question is, in Boston, they're going to receive, Massachusetts is going to receive a lump sum dollar amount, billions of dollars coming in a lump sum to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I wonder out loud, what is the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts going to do with this large sum of dollars coming in to the state? And if the African American community of Boston, the African American community of Springfield, the African American communities across the state are actually coalescing together to have a conversation with the governor around where that money should be directed and where that money should go. That's my question. Is there a plan within the African American community of Boston and of Springfield and of Lawrence and of Brockton and of every other African American community throughout the state to coalesce and come together and demand certain things of the governor, because this money is earmarked for the people, but the governor might be having some other ideas. We need to have a conversation about what the people of Boston, the black folks of Boston, are going to do with relationship to the governor and how he plans to spend the money. Well, there's other things going on with the stimulus too. Let me talk about that for a minute. Those who have lost their jobs will continue to receive federal support through September 6th. Well, that's the good thing about the stimulus program. So if you've lost your job, you're going to receive assistance, but you're not going to get the assistance that was done, I guess, the first stimulus bill. Remember the first stimulus bill? They were giving out, I think, $600 a week to boost the unemployment benefits. Well, that's done. They have extended it, but only $300 additional boost through September 6th. And the program calls for making the first $10,000 or $10,200 of unemployment benefits tax-free for households with an income under $150,000. That's good news. Well, the Biden administration is actually thinking things out, even though I don't like how they lessen the amount of relief from 600 to 300, essentially saying that, yeah, you're unemployed, but eat cake. Freelancers, gig workers, independent contractors, and certain people affected by the pandemic can receive benefits through the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program while the pandemic emergency continues. Yeah, they're providing all sorts of things for this relief, including generous food stamps. The food stamp program, if you're a recipient of food stamps, you'll receive a 15% increase in the benefits, and that will continue through September instead of the expiration date, which was supposed to happen in June. Now, check this out. All these things are going to end in September. So how is this going to be eliminating poverty, as the Urban Institute says? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be eliminating poverty, in my humble opinion. But I could be wrong. So there's going to be a larger tax credit for childless workers. Workers without children will receive a benefit from an enhancement of the Earned Income Credit. It's one of the nation's largest anti-poverty programs, but most of the benefits flow to employed families. The package nearly triples the maximum credit for childless workers can receive from $1 to $1,502, up from the $543. And it extends eligibility to more people. A minimum age to claim the childless credit will be reduced to 19 from 25, and the upper age limit will be eliminated. So if you don't have children, if you don't have children, you're gonna get a tax credit. So that's pretty interesting. If you don't have children, you're gonna get a tax credit. How cool is that? So I do have children, so I guess I won't. Well, the bottom line is this is the largest expansion of income tax credit since 2009. And Joe Biden signed the bill. So the bottom line is that Joe Biden has followed up with his original commitment to do some good work to make sure that he addresses the pandemic and providing some relief. My question is the relief enough? My humble opinion is no, it's not. There needs to be a stimulus plan for Boston's Black community. A what I'm terming a Boston Black stimulus plan. Now the question is will anyone pick up on this Boston Black stimulus plan and actually develop it and frame it and then say to those that represent Boston's Black community, we want this to happen? A Boston Black stimulus plan supported by the mayor or those that would run for a mayor, supported by your state legislators, supported by your current members of the Boston City Council, supported by the faith-based community, supported by nonprofit organizations, supported by tenant organizations and citizen organizations, supported by people in the community that know that Black Boston is hurting. That's what is needed, my good friends, is a Boston Black stimulus program. Because follow in the great footsteps of the folks in Philadelphia that are debating the issue and moving forward with the issue, and that is to have a Black stimulus plan to address the needs of the Black community, because the current stimulus plan is not enough. I'm talking about the federal stimulus plan. It's not enough. But at the same time, as these billions of dollars are coming into Massachusetts, make sure that these resources hit the African American community. Yeah, when I say hit the African American community, I'm saying that there needs to be a way for Black Boston to actually be part of the conversation about where the money goes. That's my opinion, and I could be right. Contact us on all things Black politics. I'm your host, Leon Rock. The telephone number is 617-282-7794. Again, 617-282-7794. This is Boston Black News, and I am your host. Well, Pastor, Bruce Wall is in the house, and I was wondering if Pastor Bruce has any thoughts about putting together a Boston program to address the needs of the African American community, particularly a Boston Black stimulus program. What's your thought?
One of the things that we have done last week is that Boston Praise Radio and TV, we sent a communication to the governor asking for an interview. We wanted to ask him about the financial resources that are coming to Massachusetts, and we were asking the question specifically, what is he going to do with that money? We haven't heard a response from him. If we do not receive a response from him by Monday, then we'll be a little more aggressive and not just sending the email, but calling the press office and say that we'll do a story whether he talks to us or not. But again, as I'm learning, you have to follow the money, because that money can go in so many different directions and be covered up as coming to the Black community, or it goes to a particular few groups in the Black community, but never trickles down to the needy community.
Right.
So
that's right. I'm glad that you've made the decision to get in touch with the governor and asked for an interview and asked the tough question of the governor, and that is, what are you going to do if you receive, I know in the state of Maryland, they receive $3 billion,
Yeah. Yeah.
$3 billion.
Yeah.
That's a lot of dollars that are earmarked to the state to essentially do whatever they want to with those dollars.
And will the state then take that money and give money to the city? Does that how it trickles down?
That's how it's supposed to trickle down, is that the states go and say, all right, what is the priorities
Right.
of our cities and towns and communities based on the fact is it's a stimulus package or
Yeah.
stimulus money
Yeah.
to address COVID-19.
Yeah.
So if it's money to address COVID-19, what are the issues that are important to this targeted groups of people that need it the most?
Yeah.
And it's essentially blacks and Latinos.
Yeah.
Those are the two groups that have been impacted by COVID. Blacks, Latinos, and seniors
Yeah.
are the three groups that have been impacted the most by COVID-19.
Okay.
So, what is your strategy to provide resources in Boston, Springfield, Lawrence, Brockton, all the Black and Latino communities throughout the Commonwealth? And what is your strategy? Is it going to county health departments? Is it going to community development corporations? Actually, what is your strategy to educate people around COVID-19? Who is it that you're going to provide those resources to do the education, to do the outreach? Are you going to give it to some New York-based public relations firm?
Yeah.
Or is the money going to come into the African American communities? By the way, is Boston Praise Radio and TV, is Boston Black News and other Black and Latino media outlets going to receive some resources to do the education and outreach into the African American community?
Yeah, one of the things that the Boston Public Health Commission said in an email to me, I sent them a communication and asked if there was a template for filling out the accountability forms with regards to how you utilize their money. And they did send me a form back, and they also said, we appreciate how visible Boston Praise Radio and TV has been. So they have seen. I thought that was significant, and they're asking for all of our videos and everything that we have because they want to use it along with information from other groups. So I mean, they had Boston Public Health Commission has really been on it, I think, as a way of turning into the community, giving these resources out, because there are a number of people that I'm in contact with who also receive the financial resources. So I think they did a better job than what I think the governor has done and probably will do, unless, and again, and I won't mention names, you do have either elected officials or community activists that usually smell where the money is going. They establish a contact with the political powers that be, and they basically say, without saying it, we'll be your cover, but make sure you take care of us. We'll cover you in the community. Or we'll do a big splash in the community where, Governor, you're going to get the credit for it, but that money isn't going to any other pockets. That's the problem here. That's always been the problem.
Well, that is the problem, and actually, as a someone that is on the outside looking in over the past number of years in Boston, I have found that to be true. Is what you said is correct, but at some point, this is pretty much, Pastor, as you know better than I, a life and death situation that we find ourselves in this pandemic. And the question is the leadership of Boston's Black political community going to stand with its populace? Is it going to stand with its citizens and advocate for its citizens, or is the black political class going to advocate for itself?
That's the question, and we usually never really find out where the resources go until the Boston Globe does an investigative report with the
Mm-hmm.
Freedom of Information Act requesting information. Then it comes out, but then it's too late because somehow the government wiggles its way out of the article, out of
Mm-hmm.
the impact of the article, and everybody goes on with business as usual. So
Right.
that's why we feel that we have to find a way to press into this. I don't think that the governor's office really knows us,
Mm-hmm.
and knows the potential of what we can do. So we'll keep pushing to see if we can get a response.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the Boston Health Commission, your partner on this particular issue of COVID-19, and providing some resources for your efforts to educate the Black community regarding COVID-19, is impressed with the great work that you've done over the past number of months educating the African American community. Hopefully, the governor will be listening in, or one of his staff members, as you provide that communication to the governor, will be listening in and say, hey, guess what? What do those folks over at Boston Praise Radio and TV and Boston Black News, what do they do again? And as
Right.
his staff, which unfortunately doesn't seem to have any African American staff, but his staff will listen in and say, hey, guess what? They're doing the good work in the Boston Health Commission, amongst other organizations and other political people, have looked at Boston Black News and Boston Praise Radio and TV and understands the good job that it does.
Well, sir, you have 3 minutes to go, and your time will again be exhausted.
Well, I wish I could say I'm exhausted. I just got excited over the past couple of minutes. I appreciate you, Pastor, for all the work that you do to educate the African American community about all issues in Black politics, about all issues related to COVID-19, about all issues related to faith, and about all issues related to our community. This has been Leon Rock. This is Boston Black News. You can see us on bostonblacknews.com. I'm here every Friday, 11 a.m. every Friday on Boston Black News. And 11 o'clock. And I appreciate everyone that is tuned in today. Don't forget that you can call in at 617-282-7794. Unfortunately, I only got 2 minutes left for this broadcast, but you can put it in your, I guess, your telephone or anything like that, and put in that telephone number, 617-282-7794. That's Boston Praise Radio and TV, and that's Boston Black News, and that's bostonblacknews.com. And remember, every Friday at 11 o'clock, all things Black politics. And by the way, every Friday, starting, I believe, at 8 a.m., is the Morning Crew every Friday. By the way, the Morning Crew is off the chain. They're fun. They're enjoyable. You're going to get a bunch of laughs. You're going to get new information. And Ron Bell and Pastor Wall and all the others in the Morning Crew are awesome. You'll enjoy that platform, that show, that event every Friday at 8 o'clock on Boston Black News. Again, I appreciate you all. Thank you all for joining in. I am going to sign out at this time. This again is All Things